Hello, everyone. Welcome to DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar, Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce, and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, and our distinguished guests your questions, and we'll try to answer during the show live using the hashtag DisrupTV. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wong, CEO, founder of Constellation Research, best-selling author of Disrupting Digital Business, and one of the best futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot. And also welcome my co-host, Vala Afshar. He is the #1 CIO influencer, one of the top CMO influencers, a keynote speaker and author, and of course at Salesforce. So welcome, everybody.
Ray, we have an amazing lineup, and we're going to start with someone who I've been following and learning from on Twitter for years. So it's a pleasure to have Joanne Moretti, Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at Jabil and General Manager at Radius Design. We're going to learn more about that. Joanna has 30 years of high-tech industry experience, which means she started probably when she was 5. And today, she's proud to be on the executive leadership team of Jabil, a 180,000 person company with $18 billion of design, manufacturing, and supply chain services revenue company, an incredible company. Currently, Joanne has dual role at Jabil. She serves as the CMO and is a corporate executive at Jabil. She's also a general manager at Jabil's design firm, Radius, where she holds P&L responsibilities focused on driving high revenue growth for Jabil's shareholders. Prior to Jabil, Joanna was the VP and Chief Marketing Officer at Dell's software division. That's, I think, when we connected on social. Before Dell, Joanna was the first VP and Dean of award-winning HP Sales University. Joanne has been featured and quoted in many articles, many publications, too many for me to name, but she's most proud of being featured in Success magazine on the topic of building customer loyalty. She's a Six Sigma master. Ray, make sure you know that. And she's an awesome follow on Twitter at Joanne Moretti. Welcome, Joanne, to DisrupTV.
Thank you so much, Vala. How are you today?
I'm great now that you're our first guest.
Well, thank you to you and Ray. I follow you guys religiously, and I've learned so much from you, and really follow you every day. You know, I'm so curious to. It's like my news source first thing in the morning. What's Vala saying? So it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here.
Well, hey, welcome. And you know what? The reason we're catching up is you're doing something very, very interesting across the board, right, at Jabil. I mean, we often think about integrated design, build, operate, transfer in the construction world. In tech, we see people do things in small pieces, but you guys do innovate, design, plan, make, deliver, and even manage. So tell us a little bit about how you got to Jabil and what the company is up to.
Well, thank you. So I got to Jabil 3 years ago, and my background's been, pretty much 30 years of software, starting from engineering, going to, sales, marketing, and going to that side of the world, the dark side, as they say. Really, really enjoyed working with IT in those roles because that was my primary customer. Like you guys, I was always focused on the CIO. But as of late, joined this incredible company, Jabil, with all of the, things that you just said, all the value that you just said, but very quiet and humble. 3 years ago, when I got a call from a headhunter and they said, "Hey, we got an opportunity for you at Jabil," I said, "Who's Jabil?" And such an incredible, incredible company, as I've learned over the 3 years. I'm really proud to be here, really part of setting the vision for the future. The transformation of Jabil from a digital perspective. I can tell you about what we're doing there. It's incredible. And also helping customers on their digital journey. So I'm part of a company that's in digital transformation, and I'm part of every day innovating with customers that walk in that have been product companies their whole lives and have said, "Take this product, I want to connect it to the internet, and I want some data from it. How do I start?" And so that's an incredible place to be, and it's kind of an intersection of us changing and the world changing, and all these cool things happening at one time.
That's amazing. I mean, an $18 billion company, and when you look at the biggest companies in the world, they're all internet data companies. With the top 5 right now are Apple and Alphabet and Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Tencent, and so on and so forth. So You've had senior executive leadership responsibilities as chief marketing officer in some amazing companies. As you talk about digital transformation, what are some of the trends and overall roles and responsibilities of marketing teams that are transforming at an unprecedented rate that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think one of the most important roles that marketing plays in this digital transformation is the glue. You know, I call us the glue. We're really bringing the parts of the organization together. I wrote a blog once about, you know, digital marketing is not digital business. And it's so much more. To transform a business to move in a digital direction, there's so many moving parts and pieces. And so communications about what those parts and pieces are internally and externally is so important. And I learned that lesson around marketing being an important and critical factor in a company's transformation from the former CEO of Kaiser Permanente. Michael Dell had him come and speak to us one time when we had an internal sort of sales kickoff meeting. And he said that he was transforming Kaiser Permanente from a healthcare company to a health company.
Yep.
And that was so profound. I thought, that's got to be a big move. You know, people have to get their heads around that. Processes change, tools change, connections and collaboration have to be made. There's so many things that change in an organization. And he said that the most mission critical success factor of getting everybody's head around becoming a health company was marketing, and how marketing made the difference and was the glue and made the change internally and externally so that people believed and understood what the mission was, and then people really aligned to that mission and went forward. So when you say, you know, what's the most important part of the digital transformation, I'm going to come back to you and say, it's being the communication vehicle and the glue and the pulling of all the people together. Half of my day is spent saying, have you talked to that guy over there because he's doing something, you guys need to get together. And I know you feel like this probably at Salesforce and other companies you've been at all the time. That's kind of one of the critical things we're doing.
Absolutely. Connector and communicator, absolutely.
And communicator, yeah, exactly.
And go ahead, Ray.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say, you know, what you're doing right now is pretty impressive, right? Because you think about the roles and the things that you're doing. I mean, you've got 2 roles. How does Jabil Radius interact, and what does that mean by being a CMO at Jabil and general manager at the same time? Does it include P&L responsibility?
It does. I have P&L responsibility for Radius, and Radius is the innovation and development consulting arm of Jabil. And came to Jabil by way of an acquisition several years ago. And really, I call Radius the tip of the spear for Jabil. It's starting the conversation with customers early. It's starting conversations with customers when they're thinking about stuff, when they're, you know, something's a glimmer in their eye, it's a dream, and helping them take that dream and form it into something and create an incredible sort of solution that they can take to market. Because a lot of customers come to us and they need to know what to make and why, right? And who are they going to serve with it, and what markets are they going to go after? So we take an idea, we sit down. I've got a perfect example, if I may use it with you today, and it's on both the Jabil and the Radius website. But we took a company called Envy, and this was a beautiful dream. This gentleman had a dream of transforming the oral hygiene market. And he really wanted to change the way people brush their teeth and take care of their teeth. And he didn't want people hating dentists as much as they did, and just really disruptive, right? He wanted to do something crazy. So he said, what can we do? What can we do with this toothbrush of mine? I've got an idea. You know, we start talking about it, and we're like, well, we've got capabilities with optics. Jabil is one of the biggest camera providers. Most of the devices, many of the devices that you have a Jabil camera embedded in it. And so we've got very good technique and capability there. And we said, why don't we put a live stream camera on that toothbrush, live stream it to an app, right? And then look at it and help and give coaching to the person that's brushing their teeth. And of course, you know, everybody was excited about this, and we formed the idea. We started conceptualizing it, diagrams, drawings, user experience, where do the buttons go, how does it look, how do you hold it, what are the human factors involved. Then we take it to the next level and we're like, that's really good, but what if we could monetize this more? What if the user allowed for that data, that picture of their teeth, to go up to a cloud so the dentist can look at it? And what if you could, create a subscription model around that, where your dentists that are allowed to look at this data pay, $25, $30, $50 a month? And the guy's going, wow. And then, well, what if you could take this thing and then connect it e-commerce, create an e-commerce play around it, right? If someone needs, like toothpaste and flossers and, all that. That's cool. Okay, now let's talk about connecting it maybe to an insurance, the insurance payer industry, so that, the user can get loyalty points or brownie points for brushing their teeth properly and keeping proper care of their teeth. I mean, the ideas and the stuff that goes on in Radius is mind-boggling. And it's like that because we take cross-functional teams. We got mechanical engineers, electronic engineers, plastics and injection molders. We get, regulatory compliance experts if it's a regulated model of a business. We get our software developers. We put everybody in a room. We surround this customer and we just create. And we create together, and then we'd go do research, right? We got to make sure there's a market out there. We got to make sure that all of the consumer stuff is tested and everything. So we offer all those services to our customers from a Radius perspective. We take that idea and we will take it from idea, right, to design, industrial design, prototype, and then to production on the Jabil side, because Jabil's the big gorilla that's got factories and plants at a global scale with one sort of company, right? And to see this going on and to see people now leveraging technology, VR, everybody wants to talk about VR.
Oh, yeah.
How do I use VR in my product, right? We're talking to retailers, we're talking to big packaging, brand companies that, store shelf guides. Like everybody wants to understand how they're gonna leverage VR. So we bring them in, we start ideating with them, and like I said, we take something, a glimmer in someone's eye, and we make it come to life. And we call this, innovation realized. Right? And
awesome. You're doing concept commercialization, right? Helping customers take the art of the possible, get it out to market. But when most design firms talk about this, they just basically do the design and that's it, right? You guys take it through, right? I mean, there's a final product on the back end.
That happens all the time. So here's what happens. We get people coming in, they got a beautiful picture, a beautiful design. They went to one of those design firms. It's awesome. It's not designed for manufacturability. It's not designed for scalability to build millions or billions of them. And there's products, and we push out billions of certain products a year, right? So if you don't design it from the get-go with all of that in mind, from can this thing be manufactured? What about the right price? I mean, think about your product management days, right? You guys all know product management. You don't get the right price, you're dead. Your product's dead. So, we've got all the supply chain guys surrounding the customer, and we're focused on designing that supply chain. Now we've digitized our supply chain solution, and we've commercialized it. We've actually, so, the whole thing works.
I thought I had an awesome job at Salesforce, but it sounds like you have an amazing job. It's so cool.
I do. And then I get to market it all. So it works together, becoming, the CMO of Jabil. It was kind of a tough job because, you have this company that's really, engineering, very humble, really smart, scientists, PhDs. These guys are the smartest. But, they don't like talking about themselves. And it's like, do you have any idea when you bring and mash all these capabilities that you have together? You guys have innovation nirvana here, right? And so I'm, excuse my enthusiasm, but I can't, it's been 3 years.
It's infectious. But so you and I and Ray, we follow the venture capital and startups and what companies are working on in terms of emerging technology. Mary Meeker's report last week talked about the digital economy, battery ventures, put out a similar research talking about every company is becoming a software company and data company. In your opinion, what is fueling this digital economy and this idea where you can go from an idea to commercial product in an incredibly accelerated manner?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I have a pretty strong opinion on this. So I think that the rapid rate and pace of change is pretty much unprecedented. We've never seen this kind of change before. And I think it's being fueled by a couple of secular things that are going on, as well as technology trends that are going on. So big secular trends like trend, right? You know, in the 1800s, most people lived in the country. Today, and by 2020, probably about 80% of human beings are going to live in a city, in some urban center. There's that, right? So cities have to be designed differently. They have to be smarter. They have to be more efficient. That's a lot of people, right? Hospitals, healthcare infrastructure, right? Then you add on top of that the aging sort of population, right? A big percentage. I mean, we're going to grow to 8 billion by 2025. A big percentage of that is going to be over, 55, 60. So that's going to need better healthcare, more infrastructure, more technology. So all those things. Then you have these other trends in technology, right? So you've got all this stuff coming together. You've got the cloud, big data, mobility, analytics, AI, VR. I mean, you've got I read Mary Meeker's report too. It's staggering, right? So you've got all this stuff coming together, right? And companies are going, I better not swear, holy geez, right? They're going, we're going to get disrupted, right? We gotta figure out what to do. So companies are coming to us, a lot of our traditional customers, and then a lot of the startups going, even startups are feeling like they're getting disrupted quickly. Things are moving that fast. So it's like, help me stay. They're not even like really worried about failure, product launch failure. They're worried about irrelevance, right? They're going, we're kind of nervous about like irrelevance, not so much failure anymore, right? So help us stay relevant. And that's what's happening. That's what we're seeing at Jabil, at Blue Sky in San Jose. Every day, I get 3 or 4 or 5 customers saying the exact same thing. So I got to keep up. I got to get ahead of my competitors. Give me speed. We brought one customer in, and I have the case study online. They're called Superfeet. So Superfeet makes those nice insoles to keep your feet comfortable. Yep. This guy wants to change the world on foot comfort. He's awesome, right? So he goes, look, I don't have time. We have to get this to market. We took
all about the green insoles.
It's all about, exactly. So we did the whole radius design stuff, right? Then we took it and we're using our new, HP Fusion printers, which are all about like large scale production. And we took all the CAD drawings, everything, and we created like a digital thread between the innovation and design guys and the production guys. And now we're producing those insoles en masse with 3D printing, which a lot of people said couldn't be done, right? So there's a whole speed thing there. And again, it's about staying.
So you're doing
relevant.
additive manufacturing at scale?
At scale. At scale.
Wow.
You got to have John Delchinos. He's my additive manufacturing. He's our additive manufacturing guru. You got to have him on the show. He's going to tell you some things like what we're doing you won't believe.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you more about our conference in a bit, because that is pretty wild.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, real quick, I mean, look, you've been doing innovation for a while and design. Now you're able to do concept to commercialization, tie everything together, and really help clients actually imagine new business models. Any advice for people that are just got the memo from the board that said, hey, we're going to do digital transformation. And they're like, oh, what does that mean? Like, help them just get a few pointers to get them started. So
yeah, this is such a good question. So here's how we look at it. And here, a lot of this comes right from my CEO, Mark Mondello. Guy's amazing, right? He goes, look, we're a dog. Don't try and make us a cat, right? Stay close to what we do. I like the idea of going with software, but don't try and make us something we're not. So what did we do? We looked at everything we had, managing 27,000 suppliers a day, all the data, all the people, all the processes. So what did we digitize? We digitized you know, what we do best, right? Which is supply chain management. We're awesome at managing materials and moving materials around, right? And inventory control and all this kind of stuff. So that's what we did. We said, let's go take, and this is the advice, go take what you do really well or some close adjacency and focus on that. Take what you do well internally and expose it out to the world. And that's what we do. You know, we took what we did really well and now we've commercialized it. As of September, we came out with a commercial version of our whole supply chain set of solutions. So we can go in and do some consulting. We can go in and do like a whole managed service. You don't want to manage supply chain anymore? No problem, we'll help you do it. Plus we got purchasing power, right? Because of all the data.
Wow.
I call it the mother lode of big data because it's supply chain information like you wouldn't believe. So customers will just do it for us, right? Just manage all. So take stuff that you're good at is my advice, you know, and
so
first of all, the fact that you got,
keep doing stuff that you're good at and build on those adjacencies.
Exactly.
That's right.
All right. Well,
you're one of the brightest CMOs in the industry. Thank you so much for being on our show, and I hope you come back. You crushed it.
We're with Joanne Moretti, SVP and Chief Marketing Officer.
Honored. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you.
You can follow Joanne at JoannMoretti and follow her for some interesting tweets. So definitely follow her. Thanks a lot.
You're great.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much. What a great.
We've got to visit Blue Sky. We're gonna have to make that trip. I don't know if you've been down there yet. So
honestly,
I've got a lot of friends that have done some work with them.
When you follow her blogs, her tweets, she is one of the brightest CMOs in any industry. So definitely someone that I encourage all our followers and viewers to follow and learn from. And speaking of incredibly bright and change agent, we're really delighted to have Henry Schuck, co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of Discover.org, as our next guest. Henry is a leading entrepreneur in sales intelligence and lead generation, important to every company, every industry. Having founded Discover.org 10 years ago, when he was only 23, which is incredible, he led a company on a rapid growth path, including funding investments from the likes of TA Associates, Goldman Sachs, 5W Capital, NX Capital, and others. Under his leadership, Discover.org built the industry's most accurate, high-quality contact database through a mix of technology and a team of live researchers who continually call into thousands of IT, marketing, HR, and finance departments. It's all about quality data. It's all, when we talk about AI and algorithms, if your quality data is not there, that's foundational to your success. Discover.org was recognized for quality of its data set with both Stevie Awards and Cody Awards. They were also named a leader and ranked #1 in customer service by G2 Crowd, so crowdsourced ranking, which is very important. Inc. magazine also named them Best Place to Work 2017, so we want to learn about that a bit more as well. You can follow Henry on Twitter at Henry L. SCHUCK. Welcome, Henry, to DisrupTV.
Hey, Vala. Hey, Ray. Thanks a lot for having me.
Hey, welcome. So great having you here. And you know, one of the interesting things, you guys do a lot of work, research and surveys in terms of what you're doing. And you know, you recently surveyed 200 sales and marketing leaders this year about growth. Like, what are the characteristics? What makes people want to do it? What's holding them back? You know, share with us some of the characteristics that define a high growth company today.
Yeah, we did the study because really our business in sales intelligence is really designed around helping companies grow. And when companies buy our solution, what they're really buying is what they hope to be the keys to growth. Because no one just bought a contact name or a company intelligence or sort of any sort of marketing data input without thinking, hey, this is going to drive some sort of growth. And so that's sort of the success metric that we look at in our business. Were we able to drive growth? Were we able, that defines success for our customers. And so we went out and said, okay, so what is driving growth at companies that are growing fast? So we surveyed 200 people. They were all director or above. They came from a variety of industries, but there was a concentration around tech. And then we asked them sort of the things that they were working on, what they were doing in sales, what they were doing in marketing. And then we bifurcated the group into what we called high growth companies and then slower growth companies. And so high growth was you were growing at least 40% over 3 years, which would basically make you an Inc. 5000 candidate. And then we said, okay, what are different? How do these these groups look at the world differently? And so what we found, there were a bunch of things we found. Sort of first, the high growth companies were doing what we called sort of the hard things. And it's sort of self-explanatory, right? If you're growing, you're probably mastering things that are hard that companies that are not growing haven't figured out how to master. And so account-based marketing, if you were doing account-based marketing or using account-based strategies in sales, you were 2.5x, 2.5 times more high growth companies were doing account-based marketing strategies than those that were growing slower. And then cold calling, we actually found. So mastering sort of outbound prospecting. If you were using cold calling practices and you felt like they were alive and well in your organization, you were 2 times more likely to be a high growth company than a company that hadn't sort of figured out how to go outbound to generate interest in their products and services.
Go ahead.
I have a couple things, but one of the things that jumped out at us too was high growth companies were spending 3 hours a week coaching their sales and marketing teams.
Wow.
3 hours a week. And, we looked at this thing and we're like, okay, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. We're not doing this one. We are not spending 3 hours a week coaching our sales and marketing teams. And so now we are, but we weren't before.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Your research also talked about doing, as you mentioned, the hard things, doing the hard things. Your research talked about companies putting more focus on data quality. You talked about companies putting more focus on building stronger sales and marketing partnerships. And lastly, a theme that I found interesting was that the companies that were successful based on your research were leaning into technology more. So data quality, adapted emerging and use of advanced technology, and then probably the most important, partnership within sales and marketing. Which one of these do you think stood out the most for you as the CEO of Discover.org and advice you have for our audience?
Yeah, so I thought the tech stack was interesting because of 2 reasons. One is I think it's a dangerous thing to latch onto for companies because you go, that's also sort of feels like the easiest one, right? Like I'll just go buy up a bunch of tech stack for my sales and marketing teams, and now I've checked that box on the high growth companies list. What we did find was high growth companies had 2 times the size of a sales stack and about 50% larger of a marketing stack than their low growth counterparts. I think the dangerous piece of that is if you go buy a bunch of tech and you're not sort of figuring out how to operationalize it and put it in your process and put it in your system and then get real value out of those tools, then it's certainly not going to show up as a growth driver for you. And like, look, I think a great example is Salesforce is the core hub of everything we do. So everything, all the data from phone calls to emails to customer interactions, that all sort of flows inside of Salesforce and allows us to get really great visibility on our sales team, our marketing team, our forecast, our pipeline. But if you rewound back 3 years when we bought Salesforce, like we didn't know what to do with it, and we had Salesforce; it was in the stack. Yeah. But it wasn't a valuable piece of the stack until we figured out how to optimize it and build our processes and our systems around it. And I think that's the same thing with the tech stack. If you're you should be leveraging tech to make your sales teams, your marketing teams more effective, to get more data on your processes, to understand your pipeline better. But you should be doing it in a way that's truly optimized each step of the way.
Right.
I thought that was a really interesting thing.
I just looked at the Cisco stack, 39 technology companies. But what was beautiful in terms of their stack architecture is that the 39 technology companies were stacked with a framework that looked at the different personas, the buyer, the system integrator, the reseller, the internal folks at Cisco. And it also mapped the technologies in the stack to the buyer's journey. Awareness before when you buy, when you install, when you optimize. So I feel, as a CMO, when I think about the technology stack, you do have to have business outcomes that help shape how you leverage the technology and you have to be very focused on the customer and the employee and the stakeholders. Just chasing the shiny object and not thinking of a holistic integration process will not get you the full potential ROI that these solutions can provide. So I agree with you.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the nice headlines I saw from that is you saw high growth companies put more focus on data quality. And that's not an easy thing to do. What are organizations doing to invest in data quality? Because that's like guts, infrastructure, and plumbing to get there.
Yeah, so I think that's probably why you see tech stack inside of you see data quality and tech stack in high growth companies, because there's a lot in the tech stack that can help you get at data quality. Shameless plug, this is something that we solve for a lot of our customers. But then there's a whole plumbing piece there too, where if you go into a central hub of data, your CRM system, and you're not able to get an easy snapshot of who your customers are, who your prospects are, where your prospects are in different cycles, how you're engaging with them, that's a big problem. And I think companies, as they get to a certain scale, they're realizing that's a problem we have to tackle, and they're bringing in sort of data engineers on the sales side to own that process. For us, we have a great sales ops VP who's sort of a data engineer at heart, and his job is to sort of own the data cleanliness and the data quality within all of our different stacks. And he also ends up being like a really great liaison between sales and marketing, because he's doing work that touches what marketing does, and he does work that touches what sales does, and sort of that line in between those two is sort of, or that he's sort of the bridge between those two organizations. And that's the other piece around sales and marketing partnerships being better in high growth companies. High growth companies on average were getting 37% of their revenue sourced through marketing. Low growth companies were getting 24% of their revenue sourced through marketing.
Wow.
So 50% more revenue is sourced through marketing in high growth companies versus low growth companies. And so building that marketing and sales partnership and collaboration becomes really, really important. And for us, having that sales ops person who sort of owns data quality, it was the real bridge between those two organizations who, before that role existed and there was a bridge there, sort of struggled to mesh.
Sure. Before I forget, thank you for being a Salesforce customer. As much as I try to research our guests, I didn't know you were a customer, so I apologize.
Yeah, you need DiscoverOrg so you can look up the tech stacks at different companies.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do that. But I want to congratulate you. You've been, I think, 6 years in a row on the Inc. 5000 list, which and you've recognized 41% year-over-year growth in 2016. So you have all the characteristics of a high growth company. My question to you, what an awesome responsibility to be a CEO of a high growth company. So when, what do you think about in terms of cultivating a culture, your investment in technology, how you recruit talent? Not what keeps you up at night, but how do you prioritize what your responsibility is as the leader of a fantastic company such as DiscoverOrg? Yeah,
that's so I think the way that I think about my role is one, I think we do have a pretty incredible culture where people are bought into this vision, and they're bought into their impact on that vision. And they believe, like we had a sales kickoff in February, and our senior VP of sales stood up and said, look, there is no reason, imagine if you were the 300th employee at Salesforce. Imagine today being able to tell the story of, I was the 300th employee at Salesforce. And you can be that person at DiscoverOrg. Awesome. Like, the growth of this company can match that trajectory. And you should feel like, hey, I can tell people I was the 300th or the 200th employee at DiscoverOrg, because the future growth of this company can be on a similar trajectory. And that's a vision people have bought into. And they see where they fit in that vision too. And they see, like, every day when I do this, it leads to this, and then that leads to this, and that leads to that. And a lot of that, actually, interestingly enough, has been driven by our finance team, who has given us really interesting and deep metrics and dashboards around the productivity of sort of each department and each person in the department, and then how that connects to the overall goals of the company, whether they be in research or product development or sales or marketing. Each person knows how their metric connects to a broader metric for the company as a whole. And so they buy into that. And from a technology perspective, I think a little bit of that is just sort of like it's in our blood. And I don't know, I didn't realize how technology enabled we were until we started like hiring senior level talent from other companies, and they'd come in and say, oh my goodness, like every single thing you do is so much more technology enabled than the companies I've worked at. But I think, but not by some sort of large strategic plan. I think we've just appreciated technology and how it can make operations and work more efficient. And so we've just plugged it in where it made sense.
Well done. Well done.
Well done. So real quick, I mean, growing this fast, you probably have a bunch of folks that you look up to as a mentor, and maybe you take on mentees. Talk a little bit about like who you look up to and what you've learned from other folks around you. And if you've had a chance to actually take on mentees or any advice to folks who are looking to learn from you.
Yeah, so great question. I'll tell you, our company in 2014, we were a $22 million company. We finished 2016 around 71 million, and we'll finish this year around 90. But 2014, we just got our first round of funding, our first sort of, it was a growth equity round with TA and Goldman. And I went on a vacation and I took Ben Horowitz's book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And great book. Don't read it on a vacation.
What happens when you read it? What happens when you read it on vacation?
You read on vacation and you're like, oh my God, I've got all these things I've got to do immediately. Like, he's right. I should have done this and I should have done that. And I should have done that 6 months ago.
Do not take that book on a vacation, especially with a loved one, is what you're saying.
Yeah, dude, I was just like ready to get back as soon as I got through like the first 3 chapters. It's like, I gotta go. There's so much to do. And so I follow Ben Horowitz now. I think he's a great person to read around like entrepreneurship and growing a company and scaling a company. And now he's seen so much more of that through the venture capital view. And then I have some really great people on my board. One of the guys on my board is a guy named Randall Wynn, who founded a company called Capital IQ, which became sort of the preeminent data services company. It's a $1.5 billion company that he founded and was CEO of. And so like everything that I go through, he's gone through at, ad nauseum at Capital IQ. And so that's a great person to pick up the phone and say, hey, how did you guys do this at Capital IQ? And you can say, this is how we did it. Here's this guy you should talk to. And so that's those 2 are people sort of like, if I have a thing that I'm trying to wrap my mind around, I'll go try to find a Ben Horowitz blog, or I'll call Randy and he'll help me through it.
That's awesome. Yeah, Ben is amazing. I follow all of his thoughts especially on social media. My final question to you, we asked Joanna the same question in terms of what advice you give to businesses who are trying to transform and develop a data-driven culture where they can go from hindsight to insight to foresight, where they can get to predictive use of analytics or prescriptive use of analytics. When you work with CMOs and business leaders, what advice do you give them to help boost their digital transformation journey, specifically to the importance of having quality data?
Yeah, so I see the sophistication of relying on data and building processes that sort of goes like this. You're a small company, and so you don't have very many processes. You're not very data driven, and your systems and processes are not optimized, so you're not getting really good data out of them. As you become a mid-market company, you become very good at this. You're data driven. You're looking at all the levers to turn. You're turning them. You're understanding how the data inputs come in, how the data inputs come out. You can tell me when we installed this, ROI was this. You can tell me leads generated went up by this when I did that. And then when you get into large companies, the sophistication falls again. And so it sort of goes like this. And so what I've seen is Small companies, no sophistication. Large companies, not a lot of sophistication anymore because they become so siloed and broken up. And then mid-market companies, great sophistication around processes and data quality and relying on data to be data-driven. And I think there are a couple unique things about mid-market companies. There is an impetus to grow, and people feel sort of like they do at Discover.org, like their responsibility to that growth is clear. And the only way they're going to really grow is to grow by understanding the data that's coming out of their systems, to understand the data that that's driving their sales and their marketing teams, to understand the data that's coming out of product. For us, we were very lucky. We have a great chief financial officer who took this on and architected the system to be able to feed data from every department into dashboards that our senior leadership relies on to make decisions. And then I would say, to the extent that you can, you should not rely on your gut unless it's checked by data. There are plenty of times when I'm wrong. My gut is wrong, but there's data that's close by that can help me sort of reroute my instinct.
We are moving from gut-driven to data-driven decisions. Henry Schuck, co-founder and chief executive officer at Discover.org, Twitter handle at Henry LSCHUCK. You can follow him there for interesting insights and one of the fastest growing insight companies that we know of. So thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Vala.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
You guys too.
Very, very cool. Wow. High impact innovation, high impact on growth and interesting data. And now we've got, who do we have? Someone very special.
This is our cleanup hitter spot. This is where normally, a thought leader comes in and hits a grand slam. So for that, we've reserved the spot for Scott Santucci, director of the Alexander Group and founder of Sales Enablement Society. Scott serves as the practice lead for Alexander Group's sales human capital practice, where he works with clients to optimize how they manage talent over a life cycle from hire to retire. Scott's also the founder of Sales Enablement Society, the leading volunteer organization dedicated to promoting and elevating the role of sales enablement. As a former CMO, I can't strongly emphasize the importance of sales enablement in terms of company success. He's widely regarded as a leading expert in rapid emerging field of sales enablement. Scott has served as the research director for Forrester's Sales Enablement Practice, was the CEO of Blueprint Marketing, a firm that developed integrated sales messaging programs with custom sales portals, and held various sales and marketing leadership positions over his 25-year career. He's a frequent speaker at sales kickoff meetings, conferences, and is obviously comfortable, as you can tell in the next 20 minutes, working and collaborating with boardroom and senior leadership. You can follow Scott on Twitter at SCOTTSANTUCCI. Welcome, Scott, to DisrupTV.
Hey, Scott, thanks for joining the show. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Ashburn, Virginia.
Ashburn, Virginia. Awesome. So, hey, let's just cut to the chase. Sales Enablement Society. This thing is on fire. I think 2 years ago, there's 100 people. What are you guys up to right now? What's going on? Tell us a little bit what's been happening.
Well, I don't know. I'll try to do my best to capture it. It really starts in February of 2016. What I did is I sent out I put on LinkedIn more or less a request for friends. So as you know, for those of you who don't know, Ray and I used to work together. Our periods of time at Forrester overlapped. As you know, you get, and you're still doing that now in your company, you get all these inputs. But I work in a consulting company now, so I get fewer inputs, and it makes me sad. I love to be connected with people. So I put out this blog, and I said, hey, I want to get back to doing some of that collaborative work. Maybe we can get something going in the DC area. So actually, I put together this picture. Can you see that?
Yeah, look at that.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, to kind of describe the journey here, for between February when we had our first meeting, which I was hopeful maybe 5 people would show up, 16 people did, and actually Cindy, who works for you, Ray, she's the one who had to host it because the location we were going to have wasn't panning out. So during this cloudy period here, all we had are these meetings, and they were terrible. And the reason they were terrible is that everybody has a completely different definition of what sales enablement is.
Yes.
And the difficulty is some people want to define it, you know, guilty. We wrote a definition at Forrester. And then what happens is people get dogmatic about the definition instead of taking a step back, right? So the dogma is really difficult. And what we learned, we had a meeting where we were saying, what's your charter? And this is just in our local meeting. And we actually literally had a divide of groups. Some groups saying, why are we even doing this exercise? A charter is the stupidest thing ever. All we do is fill out a form our company gives us, and I do it on the weekend. It's bullshit. And then we had other people who got like really pissed because they're business owners. And like, the charter is that's the reason you exist. What's wrong with you? And one guy actually got up in the meeting. He was so passionate about it. He took control of the computer and pulled up the definition of the Magna Carta. And he said, guys, that's what a charter is. And then we took a step back and said, okay, maybe what we're doing is we all have different perspectives. So what we learned from it is, number one, the only thing that's common about sales enablement is everybody is the VP or director of broken things. They've been tapped on the shoulder to fix a whole bunch of crap that's broken inside the company.
So where are we on the chart? Let's put the chart back up again.
Yeah, we're still here. We're still here in this cloudy part. Because
Okay.
it took a long time to sort this out because we're not growing yet. So these are just individual meetings. And what I'm trying to do is lead to the biggest breakthrough, right? So the breakthrough that we had was, hey, people are in these, they have these broken things.
Right.
Well, what are they fixing? And what we started doing was talking through the friction, and we realized, hey, some people everybody is fixing something between the sales organization and some other function inside the company. But it's not just sales and marketing. That's what a lot of people think. There's sales and human resources. There's a lot of friction between. There's sales and finance. There's friction between.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's sales and administration that there's friction between. And I'm going to lump IT.
What about legal? What about legal?
Yeah, legal. All that's administration in my bucket.
So Stormin, Foreman, we're not Norman yet.
Right. So basically, then what happened then is once we got into that, hey, there's these different flavors of sales enablement. Then we started realizing this is what we're really talking about. What we're talking about is promoting and elevating the role and giving it an identity. So then we started blogging and everything like that, and then enough people started calling me and asking me, like, you guys see Fight Club? You know, hey, can we start a Fight Club in our city? So I started getting these LinkedIn things. And here's the interesting thing, by the way. When I was at Forrester and I'd publish something, I'd get like 10,000 reads. But I didn't get people call me. Here, I publish something, Ray, and I get like 150 reads. And I'd be like, oh, God, I made a huge mistake with my career. What am I doing? But I'd get like 20 or 50 calls.
Wow.
And that's what's fascinating about it is the more microscopic focus and the more personal, the more calls. And people are like, yeah, can we start up our group? So I'd bring it to our group. And our group was like, well, we started it. DC started it. We're going to control. It's like, we're not going to go through a control thing. It's just going to be open.
Federated, collaborative. People
Right.
actually put stuff together. Organic. Wow.
Everything is organic. So then what we decided is like, okay, I'm going to ask my company for a place in our conference. And we're going to do the Cortez School of Management, burn the ships behind us and everything. If we're going to do this, let's do it. And let's have sort of like a meeting like the Constitutional Convention and invite anybody who's interested in this space to come.
This was supposed to be a small meeting, I heard.
Yes, what we were doing is trying to plan for 25. So now we're here. 100 people showed up. I mean, huge thought leaders too. And we ran that meeting in a bunch of working sessions of collaboration and everything. We basically came up to some core principles. So now we had 3 chapters. So in November 2016, we had 3 chapters. On February 2017, I put together is sort of like what our vision is. And one of the things that we're doing is we're challenging ourselves so we have some principles. So one of our principles is having a growth mindset, which means we're gonna do big, hairy, huge tasks and work backwards from it. Now keep in mind, we don't have any money. Everybody is volunteer. We don't even have a bank account. So we put these goals out, and some of the chapter leads, we had 3 at the time, were like, if I wanted to do metrics and all that other stuff, I just stay in my own company. It's like, if we don't have a direction, let's just shoot for things. Who cares? What's going to happen? Is anybody going to get fired? If anything, just blame me. I screwed up. It's okay. So we came up with these principles. We're going to be growth oriented. We're going to focus on whenever there's conflict, that's a learning opportunity, is to turn conflict into a strength. 3, everything that we do, we're going to challenge our biases. 4, we're going to build a flexible, adaptive operating model. 5, we're going to develop a common language, but no dogma. That's super hard. We're going to concentrate on making mistakes so we can learn from them, not doing things, and do the 80-20 rule, find what works. So we rolled that out. And then here's sort of the growth between February and today, we went from 3 chapters, 12 chapters, to 27 chapters.
That's amazing.
We're in Cairo.
We're in Cairo?
Yeah, Cairo.
Like Cairo outside this country, Cairo?
Cairo, Egypt, we have a chapter.
All right.
We're in Cologne, Germany, Amsterdam, the UK. Ireland is getting ready to gear up. We're in Toronto, India, Sydney, Australia, all of these different places, and all through social media and everything like that. So that's how the growth is. We have a conference. I'll talk a little bit more about the conference later. How do you get a conference going when you have no money? Like, it's amazing how these things happen. Go ahead.
Have you reached consensus in terms of definition of sales enablement, and also where does it sit in an organization? Is it with the chief revenue officer? Is it in sales ops? Is it in marketing? Should it be its own standalone with an enablement officer? What are your thoughts in terms of what it is and where it belongs in an organization?
Well, where we're at now is to promote and elevate the role. So we have some of our members who feel strongly that the position needs to be above the sales organization.
Oh.
There's even finance organizations who believe that, and that exists in some of our members. So we have maybe about 15% of our members, the role reports directly to the CEO.
Wow.
And the reason that's the case is basically the CFO has a corner of all the metrics. And most of the metrics that they do are biased to risk. There are no metrics to promote growth. Mm-hmm. So the philosophy is, if we could get somebody who's really metric driven to really unlock that growth, to have a counterbalance so the CEO can balance between risk and growth. Right now, in an organization, it's too much there. We have another contingent of people who think it should report into the sales organization. But really, I think what it matters is what's right for your company, because it's not for our organization to dictate what it should be for each individual company. I think what it's is to say, here's basically to texturalize what it is and how it fits. So that's why we're focused on promoting and elevating the role, and why our conference, the way that we've designed it all around experience, and that experience is choosing your own experience, and it's very difficult to design something like that.
If the North Star or the primary guiding principle is to have a growth mindset, can we expect research from the Sales Enablement Society whereby you look at companies like Henry's that has double-digit growth, significant double-digit growth year over year, sustained for 3+ years, that's how you get on the Inc. 5000, and look at where sales enablement exists in growth companies, flat companies, and companies that are dying. And over time, create a heat map where you let data define the optimal placement of sales enablement within a company, whether it's an SMB, a mid-market, or a large enterprise. Is that something that we can hopefully see in terms of research from the group?
Well, this is how we're organized. So we're organized around orbits. So basically what we have are these independent operating cells of groups that are forming. So this top part here, the headquarters functions, coordinate. So Cindy, by the way, Ray, she works up here. So her job is to help us figure out content. We're not going to create any content. We're not Forrester. We're not Gartner. We are going to source or find ways to help people share information. We're not in the business, we're a community. We're not in the business of that. So in the content part, though, what we have are people who come up to me all the time who say, you know what you should do, Scott? And, you know, that's very difficult. Keep in mind, I'm a volunteer. I get paid $0. It's like, you know, I love what I should do. How about what you can do? It's a give-get, you know, relationship. But we get a lot of, you know what you should do? We want best practices. We'll sign up. So that's what we have here is these work groups. So what we have some people saying, hey, look, you know, the conversations you're having, everything's too enterprise focused. What about SMB? Well, guess what? We now have a work group that's building their version of the kit for what sales enablement for SMB looks like. And it's radical what they're coming up with. And what we're doing is we're setting up a situation where we're going to have them present to an equity partner and have them review what that work is for all their programs.
Wow. So a decentralized put up or shut up model.
Yeah, and then locally where people connect is at local chapters, right? So basically what it is a whole bunch of petri dishes around an experience. And how you define around an experience is really difficult because there's no definition of one. So that's how we're organized. And actually, to give you a flavor of that, we launched our Atlanta chapter yesterday.
Wow!
I asked them in their launching meeting. I don't know how many they had, Tanya. You know, sorry about that. I asked them to say, first of all, we gave them the working deck for what the conference is, and said, you guys own it. We haven't gotten that input here, but I asked them to give me something to promote the conference from them, and I'll read it live and not even look at it. The only notes that I got was I'm supposed to read this like I'm a cheesy infomercial person. So I'm gonna go, and then you guys can tell me what you think. And I pull this up in my email.
This is Tanya Schultz, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Do you know Tanya?
I know of her.
She's so awesome. It's unbelievable. Okay. All right. Channel it. Do you like? I gotta take again. It's really hard to like shift gears and act when I was like right on the spot here. Okay. I'm just trying to do what they're asking me to do. All right.
And imagine this is the Griffin talking.
Yeah, right. Do you like smart people? Well, so do we. That's what we're gathering together in Dallas in October for the first annual Sales Enablement Society conference. We had one last year, but we didn't know what we were doing, so it didn't count. Come join us this is the first time I'm reading it. Come join us to shape the future of sales enablement, network with other smart people, take part in our mentoring program, learn about how other companies are tackling some of the toughest problems in enablement. Plus, I hear there might be alcohol. Yes, there'll definitely be alcohol. And maybe a mechanical bull, because it's in Dallas, Texas. So that's their
beer, mechanical bull, and a bunch of salespeople. What, they're doing sales enablement. What else can we ask for?
Exactly. Tell me that's not going to be fun.
When is it? What date is the conference?
November, right?
No, it's October 26th through 28th, and it's part of on a Saturday. We have some overlap, unfortunately, with your event there.
It's okay.
So
and where's the venue? Where's the venue so people will know where to go?
It's in Dallas, Texas, at the University of Texas, Dallas.
Okay.
So we have basically the whole campus, by Friday. It's crazy.
That's wonderful. This is great.
My final question. I was a CMO of a company that had a two-tier distribution model. So it was sales enablement and partner enablement. Yep. When you think about your charter, your vision, your working groups, how much of this is applicable to partner enablement?
100%. Basically, the point of view there would be anybody who's representing your business to the end customer. Okay. That's what needs to be enabled, right? So all of those things are salespeople. So whether it be direct or whether it be
touch
through,
point, every touch point.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. That was great.
This is awesome.
Let me get some tips from you guys. What do you guys think we should be doing?
Well, I would. Go ahead, Vala. You're jumping in.
Yeah, I mean, if I had one word to describe sales enablement, I would choose educate as my word. I think that content that educates, inspires, and ignites positive action. Experience, enlightenment. Yeah, absolutely. All of them.
You got like one of the words. So these are what we asked our members. So when people join, part of the I'll pick up the phone and ask them, like, how the heck did you hear about us? Number one, because we have a website that we haven't updated in 4 or 5 months because all of our systems are broken. And why did you join? And we plotted these down, and educate is definitely one of them. But people want to build environments. So a lot of our members think they're responsible for driving the change inside their organizations.
Right, absolutely.
Well, how many companies are you guys are Disrupt, right? Have you ever have we thought about how disruptive the change to digital is? Sure. And how radically the work structures need to look like? So some of our members are responsible for that.
Yeah, as someone who would, look to shortlist vendors who ultimately would be strategic partners for me when I ran my business, I'm looking for trusted advisors. And the only way you're going to gain my trust is if you know more than I about a topic that I'm interested in. So if I want to bring communities in my company, if I want to automate marketing, if I want to have use of artificial intelligence, if I'm speaking to a sales professional and I find that I know more than that person about the product or solution that they are delivering to me, then that's maybe a deal breaker for me. So I'm looking for a trusted advisor. So enablement for me is educate the sales professional to a point that they can earn the right to my business.
Yeah.
And so
can I piggyback on that? So everybody believes that. Here's what's fascinating about our members. So they're sort of stuck. They're like, the customers want what you want. Tell me how I'm going to be successful, man, and then help me be successful. But then in the company's organized by the individual products, so they feel compelled to train them on the individual products. Stuck in the middle are these sales enablement people trying to put all this stuff together, and then if you don't manage it, sales people's heads explode because it's way too much information.
I think what you're going to do over time is really understand that enablement is really tied to the brand of the company and how you want the people to believe in and what their mission is. But we're almost out of time, so I'm just going to end on that note. We're with Scott Santucci, director of the Alexander Group, but most importantly, the founder of the Sales Enablement Society, a rapidly growing group of like-minded individuals who are transforming the sales enablement world. And also, if you catch this earlier, you will see the 6 E's of experience from Scott Santucci. So, hey, thanks a lot for being on the show. Happy Friday.
Thank you, guys.
Terrific.
Wow. Lots of knowledge dropped on us here.
One of the top CMOs in the world, CEO of a hyper-growth company, and an individual who's going to help strengthen that glue we talked about,
which
massively
passionate.
Includes enablement of sales and partners and anybody who touches your customers. Thank you so much for watching Disrupt TV. Next week, we have an amazing show. We have Mark Feidelman, CEO of Fanatics Media. He's a social sales and marketing expert, and he's going to talk to us about use of artificial intelligence in this next generation of sales and marketing. We have John Ferrara, a pioneer of CRM and CEO of Nimble, and he's going to talk about digital transformation and competing in a social economy. And then our cleanup hitter spot is John Reed, co-founder of Diginomica, an incredibly bright technology analyst who will give us his input in terms of emerging technologies like IoT, AR, VR, and artificial intelligence. So definitely tune in next week. We got three really smart guys joining the show.
Yeah, and if it's Friday, it's Disrupt TV, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you are a CXO, if you're a venture capitalist, you're a startup person, you're an experienced executive doing something transformational, definitely let us know. Follow us on at Disrupt TV Show on Twitter. And of course, drop us a line. And you can always catch us on Twitter and, of course, anywhere on email.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.